Now, the Bram Weinstein Show on Washington's new home for sports, ESPN 630.
Hey, baby. Hey, baby. Hi, everyone. Hi, everyone. Hi, everyone. We're changing everything again. I no longer am into Japan or Israel. I like France, everyone. Hi, everyone. Bonjour. Hi, everyone.
Bonjour, everyone. That's what you should
Bonjour,
have done,
everyone. Bonjour. The United Nations have shifted to Europe. Shifted officially to Europe now. Remember, we got those cherry blossoms because Rui was wearing those jerseys.
Well, no. That was
a little bit.
DC. That was
a
more
little
DC.
a little bit.
Who was modeling those jerseys?
I don't remember. Brad?
Coos.
Coos? Well,
So,
he's fashion icon.
well,
He should model every jersey.
yeah,
He's fashion icon.
that's actually very true. Yes.
When he puts on the French flag jersey, he should model that one too.
flag jersey. Yeah.
Kuzma. I mean, you could fool me if you said Kuzma. I'm like, that might be French. Sounds like it might be.
I can't wait for French Embassy night now.
Kyle Kuzma. Yeah.
Kuzma.
He's getting traded any day now, right?
Time
Time is short. I will not fall in love with. I love Kuzma. I'm going to stop falling in love with him because once they traded Deni, we now know.
I could see him being trade deadline, though. Like, I think he's getting traded before next offseason, but I think trade deadline.
If it
for
involves
me,
a pick in next year's draft,
yeah.
but it'd have to be to a team that could possibly be in the lottery. So why would that happen? Like, that's not going to happen.
Yeah,
It's a
but
contender that's going to want him,
Yeah,
and
but
then they're not going to be picking in the lottery.
apparently next year,
unless you're getting someone else's pick type of thing.
apparently next year's draft is like
The bomb.
stacked. So like they'll just
This guy going to Duke
Yeah.
is like supposedly ridiculous.
Yeah.
Number one pick. And then there's a dude who's 7'9" who's
Yeah.
going to Florida.
right.
So they're saying like next year is like boom, boom, boom draft. Wizards need to stink to have a shot of their own pick of being there.
Which I think is they
Distinct
maneuvered
possibility.
that for last night.
Distinct possibility, right? Distinct possibility.
Yep, right.
Okay, let me start with Deni because I actually think that's the news really
Yeah.
more than anything over because the Sarr pick ended up being the obvious one because for some reason he really, really, really wants to play here,
Sure.
which I'm all for. I'm like, okay, great.
We love
Very
it.
rarely.
Oh, we
Very
love it.
rarely.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like it. I love it. I love it.
Like I said, for some reason, the Europeans like playing here. Yet, he was asked by SVP last night, hey, what do you like about DC? What do you know? And he was like, I don't know anything about the
Nothing.
city. He's like, I just like the Wizards. And I was like, okay, all right then.
Yeah, because they like you.
Right, well, yeah.
They like you. You like them. I didn't realize that Will Dawkins had a semi-relationship with the family.
Oh, I didn't know that
his
either.
brother
Okay.
plays in the NBA.
Got it.
And
Yeah,
I
yeah.
guess they know him anyway. And legitimate 7-foot center. He's 19, might grow a little bit more, has range. The stuff I read about him because he played overseas, so it's just kind of I haven't seen him play.
French then played in Australia.
Yeah. What they say about him is that they're not sure he's going to be like a dominant offensive player or a dominant rebounder, but they described it as the floor is very high on him, and the idea that he would be bad in any way seems a little off. And most people thought of this draft class, he should have been the number one pick.
Yep.
But because he told Atlanta, I don't want to go there without saying it. I sent you the bite about where he was asked about it. We will play that in a minute. But I think I really want to start with Deni because I was surprised. Maybe I shouldn't have been, but I was. I was surprised because he's 23 and he's gotten a lot better. And at 23, that would seem to be on this timeline of building a team that can be in contention in 2, 3, 4 years, whatever the number is. Because even if it takes them 2, 3 more years, like Oklahoma City, to build up what they want, how is Deni not part of that? He's not 28, he's 23.
Right.
And he did develop significantly last year. So I was a bit surprised by that deal.
I was also surprised, too, because remember when Deni signed that deal last year, he was like, oh, I see the vision here. The front office seems to be stable. Like, he made all these really positive comments about kind of wanting to be a part of the future here. But look, this is not unlike the Adam Peters energy with the Commanders. They didn't draft him, and they're not married to him. And I kind of get it if they're going, we can get a first-round pick down the line. It's the lesser of the two that Portland has, and get another piece that they can also trade. Look, I bitched about it for so long, and I'll say it again. What pisses me off about the Wizards so much is they like to middle. They're not middling. They are tearing it down constantly to make sure they tank for next year. So
clearly,
I mean,
which
I'm
means
okay with
Kuzma
this.
has to be gone soon.
Correct. I think he
Because
plays
he
half
makes
the
them a
season.
little better than they should be.
Right. I think he plays half the season, and then they trade him to a contender. That's
Yes.
my guess here.
Yeah, and probably eyeing this next draft, which
Right.
has supposedly got all the big stars, unlike this one. The interesting part of the Deni deal, like I'll go back to him, as a player in the here and now and his age, because it did seem like it was on that timeline.
Mm-hmm.
The major asset that they got initially is a this year draft pick, which they used.
Yes. Yeah.
So again, if we're doing this, why would you get more prospects now if this is not the draft to do that?
Well, I think the vision here was if they were taking players in this draft, they took all 19-year-olds. So basically, they're saying these are like not only
we have an AAU team here. Now.
Pretty much. I mean,
Yeah.
we're not only going wild cards.
We should have Calipari coach, and it's all one and done. We have all one and dones on this team now.
I mean, they're essentially going, we're not only drafting wild cards, we're drafting guys that you don't even know what they're going to look like in 6 years. And if in 6 years they all of a sudden look like pros,
I guess this is what Oklahoma City did. Dawkins came out of that with
Correct.
Winger, and I mean that's what they did. And look at them now. Now, granted, they had Holmgren, who was a number 1 pick, right? So that when you get, but we have a number 2 pick, so he's supposed to be really good,
right?
And he's a big man. We didn't have anything like that. Mm-hmm. I want to see how he plays because everything I'm being told is he's not a center. So they're describing him as like a power forward, and that's fine because in this day and age, height, I don't remember. I think it was Memphis who took Zach Edey, and they took him at number 9, and I thought he was great in college, and he's an old school immobile center who might be a very good defensive presence and probably will score some points when he goes down in the lane. But that's just not how NBA teams play anymore. The big men shoot. Yep. And they can move and they can handle the ball and they've got range, and that's never going to be him. Mm-hmm. So that's going to be an interesting way that they go. But that's why I didn't value him the same way. I'm like, that guy doesn't play modern basketball anymore. It's just not. That's not the way it's played. In college, he's unstoppable because nobody has anybody his size, and you can slow it down and you can post him up and do all that stuff. Good luck in the NBA doing that. Maybe he'll be a very good defensive player for them, but he ain't going to stretch out and start shooting threes.
Yeah,
he's never going to do that.
Yeah.
This guy might. He fits more the profile of the type of player that succeeds. Cat is 7 feet tall and shoots threes.
Yeah.
Can drive to the basket, can handle the ball. That's a modern NBA player. Giannis, same thing. That's a modern big NBA player. You need to have the flexibility. So we'll see what happens with him, and we'll see what happens with Sarr. But again, 19 years old, never played in America.
Yep, right.
So welcome to the big leagues. That'll be an interesting transition. Gets to play with Bilal, who I assume he knows because they're both French.
They said they
know each other.
They said they were in contact, but nothing they don't know each other.
Oh, they don't talk to each other.
Yeah.
Like LeBron and JJ, they don't talk to each other.
Apparently.
Nobody's talking to each other. Nobody talked to him before the draft when he said, I really, really, really want to go to Washington.
Well, you
got
to remember, he did play in Australia, so it's not like he was in France the same time Bilal was. So it actually, they're both French, yes, but they were not actually ever in the same league together.
Let me read David Aldridge's piece. I really, appreciate his perspective on the Wizards. Obviously of all the things that happened in town, I really his perspective and his opening lines, the way I felt about it too, where he wrote off of the draft, let's start with Deni Avdija, because I do think that was it surprised me because of his age.
Right.
If he was a little bit older, I'd be like, yeah, this totally makes sense. He finally came into his own. He's starting to show this promise. He developed, but he's just not on the timeline. And when we talk about the timeline, well, at 23, he would be. So and he was on a cap-friendly deal.
Yep.
So I guess what the decision is, he's too good? All of a sudden, he's too good? So you have to move him on now before...
Well, I think it makes sense here. Do the math here. I think it was Ben Standig who I saw tweeting about this. Who Ben I like now. He's Wizards fan, so he has his opinions a little more.
That's right.
A little more darts out than before.
Yeah.
He said he went with this, and I kind of agree with him. Deni's extension ran through 28. Mm-hmm. If you kind of do the math on these guys, you would hope that these draft picks, they all pan out when they're 25, 6, 7. You do that. Okay. What you're talking about is extending Deni after that while all those guys are up. Essentially, you're just kind of punting on the whole situation because you don't need them now, and you're tanking. I mean, that's what it all kind of boils down to.
A young, good, developed defensive player who's now got a little bit of offensive game, I think, is valuable.
Yeah.
Obviously, what they got for him. Obviously they did. The bigger issue was what they got back was a draft pick this year That was the main asset. The second round picks I just don't even really consider all that much. They got another first round pick, but it isn't until 29 or whatever it is. So the one they got back, if they had gotten next year's Portland pick, I would have been like, jackpot.
Sure.
But because they took the one for this year, there was part of me that went, really, was it worth it? Because everybody was willing to give those away this year, because if the top of the draft isn't good, the middle of it isn't good either.
Sure. Right.
Like, really isn't good. Anyway, so Aldridge writes this. Let's start with Deni Avdija. Because although the Wizards had their highest draft pick in more than a decade and took 19-year-old French center Alex Sarr second in the draft, a part of Wizards Nation lost its collective mind upon hearing that Washington traded 23-year-old Deni Avdija to Portland before the draft for veteran guard Malcolm Brogdon, 2 first-round picks, and 2 future second-round picks. And the reality is, if you're trading away Deni Avdija, you're trading away Malcolm Brogdon too. So that's going to happen at a later date to somebody else. He's probably, like, not unlike CP3 last year, he's going to get moved, and probably to a team that is looking for point guard help or really good backup point guard help. Like, that's what's going to happen, because he makes no sense really makes no sense for this team whatsoever. He goes, one of the first, number 14 for this year's draft, was used to take a point guard, Bud Carrington. So there tells you where Brogdon fits into this. The other is a 2029 first-round pick, and then a couple of second-round picks that move around, at later dates. So back to the folks who wigged out on the news. Denny's just 23, and he's on a great contract, coming off a career year, shot 37% on threes on a reasonably high volume. He's the 6th most voting for most improved player. Why would the Wizards trade out of one of those players? Those are all really good questions. All the questions I have right now. And he said, because Avdija is 23, because he's on a great contract, because he's coming off a career year, because he shot 37% on threes, there's a real reason to do it. He goes, there wasn't a better time to ship him out than now. You would never get a better return on investment. The 9th pick in the 2020 draft, a player who has definitely improved, but who probably doesn't have much more left before he hits his NBA ceiling, than getting 4 picks for him. And he goes, this does not include Brogdon, who I agree with David here is probably not going to be here. He's going to be moved in a separate deal somewhere else. He goes, no one from a 15 and 67 team is untouchable. And given that the Wizards' new front office didn't draft him anyway, they weren't going to be all that committed to him long term. It's the nature of front offices in all sports. Okay. Then he kind of compared him to Sam Howell, and Adam Peters didn't, draft Sam Howell, and we also had the 2nd overall pick, and we were picking his replacement. So, like, that makes all the sense in the world to me. They weren't picking Denny's replacement with Alex Sarr. They don't play the same position.
Sure. Yeah.
Right. They don't play the same position. And I will go back to the number that really matters to me, the 2 numbers that really matter to me, 23 and cap-friendly contract. So is he right that they got maximum value now? I think that's arguable, actually.
Okay. I mean,
because if he does the same thing or even ticks up just a little bit higher, isn't he on the same trajectory to try to do this trade next year or in the middle of this year that gets a draft pick for next year's draft that's better than this year's draft?
Sure, but he's also your best defensive player, and Deni might win you a game or two by himself from a defensive effort. Like, that's what I'm saying here. The vision is tanking next year. I'm okay with this.
He goes on to say the $55 million extension was designed precisely to make him more tradable down the road if the Wizards desired, with descending salaries after next year. Kyle Kuzma's deal last summer was structured in the exact same way. So he says, mission accomplished with Avdija. Stay tuned on Kuz. I agree with that. If you're doing this with Avdija now, you are definitively doing it with Kuzma.
Yeah, that's right.
Because if you think Avdija might steal you a couple games, I know that other guy will.
Yeah, for sure.
I know that.
Yeah, no, I think he's definitively going to be a trade deadline deal, though.
Yeah, or unless someone comes along early.
Like, it would say mine.
Yeah, because free agency hasn't happened yet.
Yeah, right.
So teams are going to be looking around.
Yeah.
They're going to get who they get. The big names are going to go off the board. And then the teams that strike out on trying to get whoever it is, Paul George, if Dame wants out, if Harden wants out, if Durant moves on, we don't know what the Suns are doing now. Once all those big names shake out and go wherever they go, there's going to be a couple of teams that are going to go, okay, we still need to make our move because we didn't get who we wanted. Kuzma's going to be available to them.
Right.
So it might actually happen sooner rather than later, but we probably have to get through the wave of the big names first. But I'm with David here. Off the Avdija deal, I felt this way too. Bye-bye Kuz. I don't know where, and I bet it's actually before the season this time. That's what I think. Because I think that's what I think is going to happen. The wave of free agency is going to occur. Somebody thought they were going to get somebody. They didn't. Now they've got this hole that they perceive that they have, And Kuzma's an incredible replacement for whatever that is, and a deal could happen, and maybe the price will go up again. And considering what Bridges just got, what they got for Avdija, I think they could sit there and go, we get the right team, on the hook, we could get a pretty good return for him too. And if you tell me that's a 2025 pick, and hopefully not a contending team's 2025 pick, but some other pick that they have from somewhere else that might land us in the lottery. Now we're taking 2 shots again at hopefully getting the guy next year.
Sure. And I mean, you can also factor in kind of what happened with Dame last year. Remember how the random timing of the Dame trade? Wasn't that like super late? Wasn't that in like September?
Remember he tried to pull, I want to go to Miami and Miami only.
Right.
And Miami wanted to get him.
Sure.
And Miami didn't have anything to send back. They kept saying, we'll give you Tyler Hero. And Portland kept saying, that's not what we want. It's not what we want to do. And they eventually held out and got a better deal for Lillard. That was one of those in the past, big-time stars dictated not only where they go, but exactly where they go. And teams complied. I actually applauded Portland for not doing that and just going, if we're going to trade you, we're going to get the best value for you because we'd actually rather just have you back.
Just have you, yeah, that's right. But I'm just saying that one took a while. So, like, this one could also take a while going into training camp.
Yes. Now, they ended up picking 2 other players. He goes, with each of their first three first-rounders, which was interesting, they traded back in to the end of the Wizards last night to take Kaishan George, who's out of the University of Miami, taken 24th after they moved 26 and 51 to get there. They're calling that an upside play for him, too. So they've got 3 very young players coming in here, but that's the draft.
That one overall, by the way, it's not that big of a deal. They only traded up 2 spots, and they just moved their second-round pick to move up those 2 spots. So essentially, they just packaged up the last 2 picks. They had to move up 2 spots. I'm okay with that.
Right.
Like, that's to me isn't like crazy.
Right. So let's see. This is what he writes about the people that they got. Sarr, with his 9'2" standing reach and 7.4 wingspan, ability to guard in space, fits the bill for them. He could be a center. He could be a 4 down the road. I agree. From what I heard about him, if he doesn't get better, like physically up front, that he will be a 4. But who knows? Let's see how he grows into his body, see how they develop him, see where his skill set takes him. But it does sound like that. He fits what could be the prospect of a prototypical 4 that can potentially handle the ball a little bit, but might have range for someone his size, which has become kind of the secret sauce of the NBA.
Right.
Jokic has this. Giannis has this. Kat has this. A number of these players that are big in size but are mobile and are difficult. Porzingis has it. Very, very, very difficult to guard on the perimeter. How are you guarding a 7-footer on the perimeter if he can shoot? That's why Wembanyama looks indefensible at this point.
Right.
He can handle the ball, and who's blocking his shot? Literally nobody.
Right.
Anyway, so they look at this way. He fits the bill. He could be a center. He could be a 4. Carrington is 6'4", has grown 7 inches in the last 5 years, and has played both guard spots for Pitt. George is 6'8", wiry, and the old man of the trio at 20. He, too, played all over the place for Jim Larrañaga at the University of Miami. He talks about the offensive ceiling for Sarr, and then they're hoping that Sarr becomes this or that or the other thing. We'll see what ends up happening there. And then he gets to this other point, which was the interesting point of Sarr, which is at least we know Sarr wanted to be here. He goes, he didn't work out for any other team than Washington, including the Hawks, who had the first pick. Sarr and his people didn't want any part of Atlanta, nor did they want to fall below Washington. That in of itself is major progress. A top pick in the draft identified the Wizards as the team for which he wanted to play. And he said this, I think it's a really interesting team. They're a young team right now. I think they're rebuilding. I think they're really turning in the right direction, and it's exciting for a player to be part of anything like that. He was asked, do you have the bite from NBA?
Yep.
Okay. So he was asked on the NBA show, I think it was ESPN, I think it was Cassidy Hubbard. I can't remember her last name now.
Cassidy Hubbard.
Yeah. Who was on the set. I think she's the one asking the question.
It was Perkins and Jefferson.
And they asked him specifically, why didn't you work out for Atlanta? This is what he said about it.
I want to know, what was it about Atlanta that made you not want to be there? Since you didn't work out for them, you didn't visit, they got the number 1 pick. You could have potentially went with the number 1 pick. What is it about ATL?
Yeah, I never said didn't want to be there, and I got a great team of agents around me that led me to the choice, but I think, Atlanta saw me play this year. I was playing Atlanta when I was at OT, so I don't think it's all about one workout.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Look, your film is what you got. Your film is your proof. You're saying I was in Atlanta. They saw me work out. You know their scouts were at the game. Why do I need to go work out for them? That's basically what you're saying.
I mean, I'm just saying that there's probably enough film out there, just for one day of workouts.
Right. Amen. Amen.
Well, our draft experts compared you to Kristaps Porzingis on the offensive end and Nick Claxton on the defensive end. That would be, a big comp. Who do you think you model your game after?
I mean, when I was younger, the players I was looking up to is Kevin Durant, Giannis.
Bigger comps.
Those tall guys that can do pretty much everything on the floor. I think, that's what was leading me to improving on my game.
And
how does a French 18-year-old end up in Australia, and what was that experience like for you, and how did that help prepare you for the NBA?
Yeah, I mean, after OT, I wanted to take a new challenge and play in a professional league before I entered the draft. And the NBL is such a tough league, and it's really reputed for being a grown man's league. And I wanted to see how I measure compared to these guys. So I think it really helped me take the next step in my game.
And listen, coming here, the pressure's off.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, look what they're doing around them.
Yep. Right.
I mean, they're not asking you to come in here and make them contenders overnight.
Right.
So that must be somewhat attractive to him because he's saying he wanted to go there.
Right. Exactly.
Like outwardly saying he wanted to go to that, which is an interesting way of looking at your career. I know I'm going to be on a bad team, but I'm willing to go to the bad team because I think the bad team's going to get good. And I hope he's right.
Right. No, I mean, if you're looking at his situation and he actually is looking around and going, I want to go to the best place where I can succeed, and it's Washington, I think people should be celebrating that today, because when's the last time the Wizards were known as that team? They've never been known as that team.
I can't remember.
They've never been that team. So,
okay, so this is actually a little semi-similar, except that no one was yelling "aura" at winger when he came in here. It's
Right.
similar with the Commanders.
Sure.
Peters walked in and they went, "He's going to fix it."
Yeah.
And he's done a massive overhaul of an NFL roster, massive overhaul of it. And he's not saying they're tanking, and getting Jaden Daniels does not scream tanking at all whatsoever. And in the NFL, I think it's hard to kind of do that.
Yeah.
But they're baselining, and they stacked up a lot of draft picks, and they're hoping those draft picks are going to work out, give them some interesting decisions to make about the current players that are still holdovers and what to do down in the future. With the Wizards, they are fully in this mode of, we know we're going to be, I mean, they said they were going to do it. They lowered the expectations immediately. So do we buy into what they're doing? The Deni one threw me a little bit just because of his age. It threw me a little bit. Them trading Kuzma always made a lot of sense to me because of his age, and it probably means he'll be dealt as well. And I've kind of known that for a while, and they talked about doing it last year if the right thing popped up, and it just didn't for them. I have a feeling it's going to be different this time around.
Right.
Look what they got. Look what the Nets got for Bridges. Look what Washington just got for Deni.
Yep.
They did get 4 picks for him.
Right.
And, and a part to make it work so that they can move. And then let's see what they get for Brogdon. It's probably going to be something of value.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
Something of value.
It's also I think everyone should, remind themselves, don't overvalue what's on your own team. Don't overvalue Deni. I know he's really good, but do we see him turning into some dominant fixture in the lineup?
I've never felt that way.
Right.
But what I did see was a player who turned a corner significantly last year, where I felt a couple of years ago, I went, that guy could be a really good defensive player, but he's never going to be a great offensive player. And this year he turned into a good offensive player and a really good defensive player. And I went, okay, you know what? At 23 with that, if you put a couple of really good high volume scorers around him, why wouldn't you want to have that on your team?
Right.
And they're saying no.
I think what they're really saying is we're not going to have that. So let's sell high.
We're not going to have it now.
Yeah.
So he had a really good year.
Sell high.
Sell high. But the main return and early return was another pick in this draft, which is the part where I go, hold the phone for a minute. You guys told me this draft wasn't very good.
But let's say
So was that really selling high? If Portland's we're trying to get rid of this anyway.
Let's say this all works out perfectly, though, and all three or let's say one of these 19-year-olds ends up being stud.
Well, hopefully the number 2 pick is. Let's hope what you're banking on is that other 19-year-old is as good or better than him.
Right.
This point guard that they got is most likely.
And what I'm getting at, though, is let's say between that and Koulibaly and whoever else they draft down the line, that then comes around 2029 or whatever that pick is, they've got an extra first-round pick in the bank from Portland, by the way. We don't know what Portland's going to look like. I know it's the less favorable of their 2 first-round picks, but you're going to have a first-round pick to kind of play around with when you think this team is going to, the quote-unquote process is going to play out for you, too.
You hope.
It gives you an asset when you think things should be
Well,
turning
if they're
around.
not good 5 years from now, this front office is gone.
Right, yes, correct.
That'll be someone else's
Yes,
choice to make.
correct.
Because at that point, the process has to happen.
Right.
Like the dude who did the process in Philadelphia isn't there anymore.
Right, yeah.
Right? The dudes in Oklahoma City are.
Yeah, right.
It did work out.
Right.
All right, let me take a quick break. I want to stay on this for a little bit because Deni, the Deni deal threw me a little bit, and I need to talk it through a little bit more. Brad Watch the Show, ESPN 630, the Sports Capital. Throwback Thursday is 2004 today. 20 years ago, yesterday, the Washington Capitals drafted Alexander Ovechkin, greatest player in the franchise's history, one of the top 5 players in the NHL's history, and hopefully, as long as he stays healthy over the next 2 years, maybe less, year and a half, we'll see,
Let's hope.
is going to be the all-time goal scorer in the league's history. We hope that happens. Obviously, he is a player that literally changed everything about the Washington Capitals and is still playing, which is remarkable that he's still doing that, that about a third of my life and more than half of yours involves him being in the Capitals organization and then eventually as its best player for a very long time. And then, of course, last night, the Wizards, also owned by me, Michael, as you may know, I like to remind you, took Alex Sarr as the number 2 overall pick. And there's some kind of hope, I would suppose, that he's going to be the next franchise star of this team, along with Bilal, because I know they have high hopes for him too, that one of them or both are going to turn into a duo that turns the Wizards into a fixture of success, which they have literally not been since the late 1970s. But, since we're comparing, the Capitals also weren't that until Alexander Ovechkin showed up. They actually were in the playoffs
They had
a
stars,
lot.
though. The Caps had
They
stars.
had stars. They were in the playoffs a ton, actually, in my youth. A ton. They just never got over the top, and often they were a disappointment in the playoffs or a heartbreaker in the playoffs. And then they had one golden run where the road opened up for them. They made the Stanley Cup final, and they ran into a buzzsaw when they played a dynasty in Detroit at the time. But then Ovechkin showed up and they became the buzzsaw.
That's right.
And, we could yell and scream whether it's a disappointment that he only won 1 cup, but I don't see it that way personally. I think that they've been a great, great winning franchise for the bulk of the prime of his career with the players around him. And could they have won more? Sure. Did they not? I don't blame him for that, for sure. It wasn't like he was no-shows in the playoffs all those years. And they did win 1, which is, to me, I'll hang my hat on it was a success in his career.
I always say the argument with them, too, are the 3 times they lost to the Penguins won a cup. Every single time. So,
that's right.
Like every time they got bounced by their main rival, they actually went on to win a championship.
Yeah, I mean, like the Colts could you say Peyton Manning's career was a failure in Indianapolis because he won 1 Super Bowl?
Right.
No,
not at all.
I don't think so.
Right.
He ran into Tom Brady too many times.
Aaron Rodgers only has 1 Super Bowl.
Aaron Rodgers has 1. Drew Brees has 1.
Right.
The most prolific quarterbacks in NFL history all have 1 except for the other guy, and they had the misfortune of playing in the league at the time with the other guy playing there at the same time.
The only thing I will make an argument there, though, is, and I think Ted would regret saying this if you asked him, remember there was an interview with Ted early on in the Ovechkin era, maybe like 08-09, when they went on that first run with Ovechkin, and he said, we're not here to win a Stanley Cup, we're here to win multiple Stanley Cups. And I remember going, ooh, you shouldn't say that. Like, you shouldn't.
Especially when your organization's never won one before.
Yeah, never won one before. And so I think that's where some people kind of look at the whole, they at least won 1. Whew, it's a sigh of relief that they won that one. But yeah, I remember Ted was the one that kind of put the pressure on them to win more than 1. So.
Yes. Well, you know what? But I mean, there was reason to believe it could happen.
Sure.
So I don't think it was unreasonable.
Sure.
He is that level of player. We don't know if Bilal or Sarr is going to become that for the Wizards. Hopefully. We've been a little overdue, honestly.
Well, they
John had a very good career with Washington, and it got shortened by bad injuries, unfortunately. Gilbert, we really don't know. If he didn't blow the knee, I know they didn't draft him, but if he didn't blow his knee out, forget the gun stuff. If he didn't blow his knee out, it's hard to know what the ceiling really was going to be for that team. And John and Brad and company were really, really good. And then Wall unfortunately suffered an injury that totally derailed his career, forced them to trade him.
Yeah.
And so we don't really know. I thought he had a very good career. He also, though, even at the time, he never ascended to he's Kobe.
No.
We never had that. We've had Ovechkin, who's been best player in the league, or inarguably top 2 or 3 player his entire career until now, when the age has caught up to him.
Sure.
And he's not McDavid or Austin Matthews anymore. But he was them.
But has won
He
MVP,
was them for 10 years.
Right.
He was them.
Right, exactly. But has won MVPs, has the trophies,
Yes.
like even the regular season trophies, yes.
Yes. All right.
I was going to say one more thing on Ovechkin. I don't think there's one player that's actually that you can pinpoint in almost maybe DC sports history that's made an impact the way he has.
No, there's nobody like him.
No.
Nothing like him.
Single-handedly made the Caps a household name, in the area. The only team that's probably challenged the Commanders to ever kind of make noise above them a little bit.
Because they've been consistent.
Correct. But I'm just saying.
The Nationals had a very good run with
Yeah.
that core group, and they ultimately won a World Series as well. But I agree, and it's whimpered off. Go look at their attendance now, and there's no carryover. That wasn't that long ago that happened. And
right.
It's not that they don't have people that are interested in it, but it's not the same as what the
winning
Capitals
though.
became.
Winning solves it, and the fact that he's been on a winning team for literally, I wouldn't say 20 years, but it took him a couple years to get it going. But once he got it going, they really haven't been bad since then. So.
Look, we didn't have baseball in this town, unless you count the Orioles, but we didn't have it in this town my entire life till the Nationals showed up.
Right.
The Senators were gone. And the Nationals were really good for a period of time, and they won a World Series. But I don't see an influx of little league programs where we have little Nats that are going to be major leaguers soon. Mm-hmm. We have hockey players that are born and bred here now that are starting to infiltrate the NHL. That is a direct correlation to him showing up here and having the connection to the city that he had.
Yep. Yeah.
He changed hockey here.
Yes, exactly.
So I agree. I think he's, whether he meant to or not, I think he just went and played hockey really hard.
Sure. Yeah, sure.
That's all he did.
Right.
He didn't go out of his way to make this happen. He just was so good, everybody glommed onto him, and suddenly hockey got popular.
Well, it's also his playing style, because we were so used to kind of I don't want to disparage certain hockey playing styles, but honestly, if you don't have a superstar like him, hockey for some people is boring. If you don't have a star like that, instead he's hitting people and going down the ice full speed and scoring these crazy goals. People are going, oh, this is fun. I would like to participate in this. So it did change the game quite a bit for us.
He did. All right, back to the Wizards.
Yep.
On the Deni trade, which I'm still trying to think through here, okay? A couple things that really stood out in seeing this. So I felt like after the season ended and when they were talking about, are they going to keep Brian Keefe as their head coach, or were they going to go in a different direction? And just kind of knowing where they were, Deni or no Deni on this team, that they are in stage 1 of how many stages to get to we want to be Oklahoma City East.
Yep.
Like that's what we're trying to replicate here. Mm-hmm. We're trying to be them. We're going to clear the decks, get as many picks as we can, hopefully hit on some, hopefully hit big on some, who's our SGA, who's our Holmgren. Let's hit big on some, and then boom, unleash it, and let's see how far it goes. We're only in step 1 or 1A of all of that. Keefe, what I saw in him was development of players. And the team did, to Sarr's point, I can't believe he watched that much Wizards basketball last year, even though he pretends to say he did. They got a lot better. They were more competitive. They were the weaker opponent on most nights. And they pulled off a few wins where you were like, oh, they beat Milwaukee one night, and then they beat Miami one night. And you're like, oh, they were very, very competitive. On most nights, they lost. And on some nights, they got boat raced. But once he took over as the head coach, there was a clear difference in the way that they played in general. And it was far more competitive. And I can live with that. I can live with a bad team that is competitive. I couldn't live with what was going on under West.
Sure.
That was ridiculous.
Yeah.
And they course corrected that pretty quickly. And by the end of it, I'm like, you know what? I think this guy should just remain the head coach. I think it's the right way to go. They play hard for him. everybody seems to be on the same page of we know where we are, and he seems right place, right time to do this, and he's embracing it, wants to be it, and they keep saying like he's a lifer nerd, film nerd, and developer. And one of the things that Winger and company talked about a year ago when they came in was we want to develop our players, which honestly I don't think this team has done a very good job of for a very long time. Like how many players have come through here and they didn't develop into something, and then they course corrected and went a different way. They seem to have a plan in place, and development's going to be a big part of it. Well, the biggest symbol of that is Deni. He's the biggest symbol of it because as of a couple years ago, I felt like this is a NBA player who's limited offensively. It could become a very good defensive player, and that's a valuable asset. But how good is he really going to be? And is he really a pillar of a championship level organization? After last year, it looked like, and this is why I was surprised, he did really turn a corner. His offense did improve significantly. He already is a really good defensive player. He was really growing into it, which is what I think what surprised me. So they traded him, and they traded him at max value, and he's not, quote unquote, on the timeline that they want, and they're, still building in their stage 1A. There is some proof there that this group is doing what they said they intended to do, which is develop their core players, make them better, and then when we're ready to unleash it, we'll have a group of homegrown players that are ready to go. I think Deni fit that mold at his age, but I semi get what David and what you are saying about this, that like maybe the time was right to bail on it. I feel like it was a little premature, and I don't know that they got maximum value for it because the main asset back was a pick this year, and we all agree that this wasn't the greatest draft to do that in. But okay, but I do look at it as Keefe, Dawkins, Winger, whoever else is there in the player development part of it. Proof positive of that part is working is him. So will you be willing to buy into Bilal, Sarr, Carrington, all these young guys that they're bringing in, that they'll develop them? And in the past, I would say I have no belief in that at all. They got high-tier talent like Wall and Beal were top 5 picks.
Yep, right.
They're supposed to be good. If they're not, that's either bad scouting or you got a bad organization. When you're picking 14th, and I know it doesn't sound very low, but Carrington's the 14th pick. This is going to be about development. Can they develop him into the player they want to? And Deni was a surefire sign to me that they are actually living up to that promise that we will do this. And that's why I think I'm a little like, oh, you found a guy, you developed him, and now he's gone, poof. So I go both ways on it, but I do think it is a sign that what they said they were going to do initially, he's living proof of it, that they did do that in year one.
To David's point, too, though, let's say the ceiling doesn't get much higher. Maybe they know that, too. I mean, whatever they're
I'm
looking
sure they
at,
do know
whatever analytics,
and
or
I
whatever
agree
they
with
think.
that.
Yeah,
like,
I
never thought he'd get to this.
Sure.
Actually.
Yeah, I'd agree with you on that. And
so
I think, the other thing
I'm not like scared he's going to go there and be great.
Yeah,
I have no fear that he's going to show up there and be awesome. And we're like, what were we thinking when we did it? I think he's going to be the same player he was there if the organizational structure works for him. And that's a very good NBA player, potentially a defensive stopper, and but he's not stealing games for you and not going off in the fourth quarter, scoring 20 straight points. Like, that's not happening with him.
No, it's not at all. The other kind of blurb, by the way, that we haven't even gotten to is that apparently you could have had Kispert yesterday, but there was no, offer for him.
Kispert?
That he was.
What do you mean? Who wrote that one?
I want to say it was one of the NBA reporters that just said they're listening if you want to take a shot at Kispert, and then I saw nothing else for the rest of the night. So apparently, if you weren't,
so they were probably same thing. A couple of picks.
Yep, a couple of picks if you want.
So they wanted something strong for him,
right?
But he also did not, to me, exemplify the leap that Deni took.
Correct.
That's why Portland probably felt better about Deni because it looked it. Kispert, I agree, has this promise and has a skill that is, priceless in the NBA. If you're a sharpshooting three-point shooter, Boston has shown this. They have too many of them.
Yes.
Right? But I didn't see the consistency, and I also am concerned about him defensively.
Yep.
So on a really, really, really good team where he gets free looks, he could be a killer, probably. But what is that worth to another team? Deni showed he can play defense. I think it's different. All right, we'll take a quick break. Bram Show, ESPN 630, Sports Capital. Great Jay-Z from 2004. 20 years ago is Throwback Thursday because 20 years ago yesterday, the Washington Capitals used the #1 overall pick in the NHL draft on Alexander Ovechkin. Best decision that organization ever made. Wasn't a hard one. Look at the results. And hopefully in the next year to 2 years, Alex Ovechkin's going to be the NHL's all-time leading scorer. We'll get to watch that in real time. One other quick little hockey thing. I haven't heard this before, but when your team goes to the Stanley Cup final and gets to Game 7 and unfortunately loses, typically your job is safe, but the GM of the Oilers is leaving.
Yep.
Parting ways mutually with the team.
Right, yes.
He did something wrong here because it seems like their team's pretty good. So that's I don't know your problems up there, but this feels a little Barry Trotzy. Like, we got good. We got really far. I know we just missed guys, but, don't blame the GM for that, of a 2-1 loss in Game 7 of the last game of the season. And they went, you know what? Nah, we're going to do something else.
That one I don't know. Like, I literally don't know.
Yeah, I don't know either.
You would think you'd want to come back too, but apparently you didn't want to do that either. I know they've got some weird decisions, like Draisaitl, didn't score at all in the final, so what do you do with him? They need to get a goaltender, not unlike a lot of other people.
If they don't want him, I would take him here, Draisaitl. He's fine. That's fine.
Didn't perform in the playoffs, though. I don't know if we need any of that around here, but especially with a certain guy they just traded for. But, yeah, I mean, this is a weird one. I'm not sure what's up with that. That almost sounds like it was premeditated, and then they happened to just go to the Stanley Cup final. So, yeah, I'm not sure.
Yeah, I don't get that one either. Did you, as we agreed, watch 2 episodes of The Bear last night?
I did, yeah.
Did you stop after episode 2?
I did, yes.
So did I.
There you go. Look at that.
Look at that.
Teamwork.
Fair is fair. I watched The Bear Season 3 debuted last night.
This is like spoiler warning for everyone. We're going to talk about these 2 episodes. So if you need to turn away for 5 minutes, do it.
Major spoiler alert here, because that show, in my opinion, right now is the best show running on TV. And
correct.
The first 2 episodes did not change my opinion whatsoever.
Yep.
And I think they've laid the groundwork for exactly where this is going, which I think is a very good way to go, which is they changed Richie last year and turned him into more of a professional. He was kind of the deadbeat who was hanging on to the family business that wasn't kind of really his family, but he was just kind of there.
Correct.
And he was kind of a pain in the butt, but nobody could get rid of him. And they turned him into a professional last year.
Right.
The main character, Carmi, who it's centered around, also is the Bear, known by his family as the Bear. The head chef who actually did culinary training around the world came home to try to fix the family business and now is turning it into a refined Michelin star type restaurant, except that the infrastructure to do that's very difficult when you've got a mob family and a dysfunctional family that you're working with. They're trying to figure this out, and the season 2 ended with him kind of having a breakdown because he locked himself on opening night into a freezer.
Pure chaos.
Yeah, pure chaos. And they started this. I'll get to episode 1 in a minute. I want to do episode 2 first, actually, because episode 1 was just a very artistic recap of everything that had happened.
It was actually you're not wrong. It was a recap. It was a walk through how Carmi got to where he got to, because we had seen pieces, but we hadn't really gotten anything.
Hadn't gotten the whole thing
definitive from him, and this was finally one of this is why he acts this way. This is why this person is connected to him, and this person's connected to him, and this person's connected to him, because they literally work side by side.
Yes.
By the way, that was art. That first episode.
The first episode,
pure art.
It was amazing. I thought it started to get a touch repetitive, and it was a touch too long.
Sure,
but it was one of the most amazing pieces of typically people want to do a season. Let me catch you up.
Yeah.
They did this in the most artistic way you could think of, and it was beautifully done. And it lent a lot of what you're talking about. They wanted to explain to you why this character is the way he is. And he's the main character. And while he's been the focal point of it, this show has been brilliant at really developing everybody else around him in his chaotic world. That's why I think this show this season is all going to be about whatever his personal development is.
Yes.
That's what they set up here. The first episode's hard to describe. You just have to see it. You really do need to see seasons 1 and 2 to make any sense of it whatsoever. So if you're hearing about this, you're like, I heard that show's good, and you pick it up here and you didn't watch seasons 1 and 2, you're going to be bored silly by season 3's opener, and you're not going to have any context of it.
It's an easy watch.
It's an easy watch, but you're not going to have any context of why they showed that. Episode 2, they started, we're back in the restaurant again.
So I just want to say this too, before you even jump into episode 2, that it was a literal palate cleanser was episode 1.
Yes.
Because season 2 ended on such a chaotic note of what he had to address on the other side that they almost did a good job of being like, oh, right, he's got to go through all of these things with all of these people of what would happen. And like, oh, crap, that went down with him. Like, it was a very well done of like, oh, he's got to walk into work and deal with some things.
It was a really great way of going about saying, one person's worst moment actually might be contextualized by a lot of things that happened in his life that led to that moment.
Sure.
So I thought it was beautifully done, really great. But again, if you haven't seen seasons 1 or 2, you're not going to make sense of it.
Yep.
So if you've seen it, you're going to be like, that was amazing. I thought it was amazing. Episode 2, they actually get into what the storyline is going to be. And again, centers around him and some massive neuroses that grew out of him screwing up at the end of season 2. Mm-hmm. And so you already can see where this is going. The whole thing's going to be centered on his personal development, and that's pretty good. And then, I don't know why we did this. We had Archer watch this with us last night. And I'm telling you, like, there's
F-bombs in that one.
We stopped counting because the F-bombs at one another hit somewhere around 35 in about a 4-minute span. And Archer, like, at one point was just like, do people talk like this to one another? And I'm like, they do on this show.
Yeah, they do there.
We don't in our family. And in most people we know, they don't. But there are a few families where that's the dynamic and that's their family.
Yes, right. Exactly.
So I would not advise for children to watch. That was a dumb mistake. And the first 2 episodes, like, really, they actually typically have been very good at moving scene to scene and moving place to place. They've kept them in basically one spot.
Yeah, right.
So they're giving you these moments in time, but they're giving you 20 minutes of it and allowed it to develop from there. And we'll see where it goes. But I thought it was a fabulous start to that season, and it's beautifully shot.
The awesome part about that episode, too, is if you paid attention to the clock did run in real time. So, like, of course, the attention to detail on that was like, it was literally only 20 minutes, but it was 20 minutes of real time.
They're big on this. The best episode this show has done was in season 2 when they had a Christmas dinner, and I don't want to spoil it because it is unbelievable. It's the best episode of television I've seen in a long time. It's amazing. And there's all these incredible cameos. Jamie Lee Curtis, Bob Odenkirk, really amazing cameos that are in this, of this extraordinarily dysfunctional family that has a breakdown like you wouldn't believe at the end of a Christmas dinner. But throughout that, they keep showing a clock and keep showing a timer, and they keep explaining how seconds matter and all this stuff is really, really important. Every second counts. They keep going through that. The other thing that I like they're doing is they clearly are mission oriented to get you to rethink the service industry as a whole. Mm-hmm. Yeah. They want you to think of these people differently as people who have real lives and real struggles and real problems, when most of us go through life kind of ignoring the people that are doing all these services for us, whether you work in a restaurant, work in a hotel, whatever it may be. And I think they've done a really, really, really good job. And they went out of their way in an open to show all these people in different service industries, like looking human, waving at you. Yeah. And I thought that was mission oriented. It was clearly mission oriented for this show to do that.
I know your favorite episode is the Christmas episode from season
7
2.
Fishes.
Yeah, 7 Fishes. Yeah. I have actually, after rewatching, I think I like Forks more, which is the episode where Richie does get cleaned up and goes to the, I've just become
and
more
he
fond
learns
with
about
that
forks.
Yes.
Yeah. And why they're important and all that stuff.
But like, to your point there, that was the episode of like, there are people that they live for this. Like they live to serve you at that 5-star restaurant. And that's turned into my favorite episode, mainly just because of like, it does flip your thinking on some of these things.
They're like showing you the dedication, devotion, and how they kind of put their lives into this. And then most of the time we walk into these places and just assume everything's going to be fine and don't think about everything that's happening behind closed doors. So they're very mission oriented too. Show's fabulous.
It's the best.
It's the best show on television.
It's so good.
It's the best show on television.
I won't spoil it, but the final line of episode 2 was like incredible. Like,
I don't remember it now. What was the final line?
It was the pastry chef guy. I forget what his name is, and he was like, I think I'm supposed to be here, and he literally says to Carmi, "You need to take us there." I was like,
there's one thing you need to do for me.
Because everyone was calling him crazy the entire episode because he has these list of things that are crazy. Yet that was the one guy that was like, "You need to be the guy that gets us here." So it was really cool.
Amazing. All right, we'll be right back. Very much the show. ESPN 630 Sports Capital. Bilal's gonna drop it like it's hot. Sarr's gonna drop it like it's hot. Little Bud is gonna drop it like it's hot.
You got to figure out how to say it in French.
Here's the deal. We get good. Your guy Snoop's going to show up, sit in front row at Wizards games. We're 3 years away from it, but you never know. He's going to drop it like it's hot. And Zachary's going to be sitting right next to him.
I mean, yeah. Zach's always sitting next to him.
That's right.
Except on Gilbert night.
Yeah.
When Ted wasn't there.
That was Snoop from 20 years ago, 2004.
20
years ago, 2004. We chose that for Throwback Thursday because 20 years ago, yesterday, the Capitals selected Alex Ovechkin, #1 overall. Let's hope that Alex Sarr, a different Alexander.
Different Alex the Great.
A different Alexander, spelled a little differently, but also European, might come in here.
Is Russian European?
That's a good question. Are they? They're not.
I feel like they're their own category.
Their own category. My bad. Same area. Same area.
Continent.
They're all connected.
There's a word for that. It's continent.
Okay, well, if they're in that continent, are they then European? They're not Asian. That's not Asia.
Ooh.
This is a tough one. There's no way they consider themselves
Paid
European.
attention more in geography class.
But they're connected to European countries, and I believe that Russia's in the European continent. If I'm wrong about that, just erase this and don't replay it on the podcast because I don't want to sound stupid. My daughter in high school is going, "You're an idiot."
Pretty much, yes.
Yeah.
I think it's a separate category.
Yeah.
And maybe that's the Canadians' fault because they all have the Russians labeled as differently than all the other European
Ukraine
countries.
is not in the EU.
Right.
But they want to be so they can get the people to help them stop the Russian invasion.
Correct, yes.
So they're not European, but they are bordering European countries. But the continent, I think, is still all Europe. I don't know. Texas doesn't think they're America anymore, so who knows?
That's fair.
It's the
Yeah,
same.
no, that's true. Yeah.
Quebec doesn't think they're Canadian.
Right. Yes. Tijuana is not American, but kind of is.
Might as well be.
Right. You can just do some different things there.
Yeah, it's the place we do our stuff. All the things you're not allowed to do anywhere else.
Tijuana is Russia.
Yeah. Tijuana is Mexico.
Yeah, I know. That's the
Okay.
joke.
You know that's not in America, right?
That's what I said.
Okay.
Whoosh! Right over your head.
I don't know anymore. All right.
That was my point. That was my point.
As I'm checking it out now, the Raptors are on the clock because we've got the
special.
It's
draft time. It's draft
the special
time.
4 p.m. second round start of the NBA draft, of which I say, good. I like it. So I'll let you know when picks actually start happening.
When Bronny gets picked?
Bronny's going to get picked, hopefully within the next hour. I hope so.
I would hope so.
I would hope so. That's a possibility. And it got through the first round as anticipated. Nobody took him, so he's not hostage yet. It still could happen. The teams that are coming up here soon, Raptors, Jazz, Bucks, Blazers, Spurs, any of them could do it if they want. They could. And, the momentum for this is high. Here's Tim Legler, who's he's not a hot take artist, okay?
You distracted me.
I told you before the break I was going to play this, so don't tell me I distracted you. I didn't on this one. I am not throwing you for a loop. You'll find it. It's in there. It's under a tweet that I sent.
I know, because what happens is when I open up a tweet that you send me, I then hit the home button, and then I go back to the original, like the home page, and then I have to find the tweet
I could do
again.
a better way of sending you the soundbite, but I don't know a better way. That's my universal message of I'm going to play this at some point. See, I do pre-prepare for this show. I know nobody thinks I do, but I know I do. But I do.
No, you do. Here we go. From the Action Network.
Yes. Okay. Yes. Tim Legler, not known to be a hot take artist. Okay. Not known for that. And this is not the hottest of takes, but it was interesting to hear it come out of his mouth.
Yeah.
Here he is on take Bronny hostage.
Who? Boston. So, like movies, I like true crime, stuff like that. I'm just saying, 54th pick, we renew the Cold War between the Celtics and the Lakers. The Boston Celtics take Bronny James, and he sent a ransom note to the Lakers. We have your son. And we have your son. If you want him back, it's going to take Austin Reeves. It's going to take whatever you want. What do you think, Stephen A? What do you think? That's a Netflix doc. That's a Netflix documentary right there.
That's right. That works. That works. We have your son.
That's
right.
You want him back? We have your son. If you want him back, that's what it's going to cost you.
I love that.
All right. Who? Boston.
There you go.
He stole Bill Simmons' bit, though.
I mean,
Bill Simmons did it on Sunday night.
I've been on this for months. Somebody should just do it.
Right.
Just do it.
Because you're going to get some kind of
You're going to
asset
get
back.
something back.
Right.
You're going because he's going to want it to happen, and what LeBron wants, LeBron gets. So, Rui, where are you going to go?
Rui.
Austin Reeves. That's a good one.
That's
Give
funny.
us Austin Reeves.
Good. It's good. I was trying to find the original Simmons clip, but yes, Simmons did the same bit. Was like, I think we should pick Bronny. He actually said the Celtics should have picked him at 30.
Picked him at 30?
Yeah.
Well,
and then you would have had the whole day for them to scramble and get second-round picks or something for him.
Well, I think the other part is, why aren't teams that are on the clock calling the Lakers going, we might do it?
Just threaten.
You want to trade with us now? Because if it's not us, it could be someone else. Like, why wouldn't the Raptors call the Lakers and go, we're on the clock. We might do it.
Right.
Do you want to trade with us? You want to trade with us now?
Yeah.
And then they go, we dare you to. How many times do they go, we dare you to, when every GM from every team is calling them going, we might do it?
Well, I think the one that's intriguing is Phoenix. It's the only other team he worked out with.
Right.
So what if Phoenix trades like...
Boy, we're
with
in
that
an interesting
Celtics-
space where everybody only works out for the teams they want to go to.
Good. I mean...
Really?
I think-
What's the point of having a draft then?
Well, you could still have an asset. Like, if you're a true 1-1 overall like Wembanyama, you can't force where you're going to go.
I've been waiting. Well, of course. Like, I've been waiting for this forever, for the players to go, how do I do this respectfully? I don't want to play for you.
Right.
I know you have the right to choose me, but I actually don't want to play for you. Why don't we just not have a problem?
Mm-hmm.
I've been waiting for more players to do this.
Right.
Bronny James, who was not a first-round pick, worked out for two teams.
Right.
When have you ever heard of anything like that? Most of those guys, please pick me. I don't care who you are. Please,
right.
I just want to be in the NBA, guys.
Yeah,
please.
I'm just
Not Bronny James.
trying to
Bronny
make a
James is
roster.
going, no.
He's like, I'm not hurting for money over here.
He's like, Utah Jazz? Get out of here. I'm
Pelicans.
not flying to Utah.
Pelicans.
Pelicans, yeah. Pelicans. No. He's like, no, unless he likes New Orleans.
Charlotte.
No.
Orlando.
MJ or no MJ? No. But, in the upside down world we're in, we got the guy going to Atlanta going, no, I'm going there. All of us here are going, us? Like,
What?
we're looking around. Are you pointing at me? Are you pointing at me?
The hot girl going after
Yeah.
the nerd.
You're pointing at me?
You sure?
Yeah, you look over your shoulder. Like, you're not pointing at them. You're pointing at me. Okay. All right. I think someone should take him hostage just for the fun of it.
Just for the fun of it.
Are you going to get somebody better in the second round than him? Than what you're going to get out of the
Yeah,
Lakers?
you probably will. Well, then what you get out
Are
of the
you going
Lakers.
to get something better in the second round than what you're going to get out of the Lakers by sending him to Los Angeles where he wants to go?
No.
No.
Right.
That's why you do it. Danny Ainge seems like the type of guy that
He
would do
does.
something
Yeah,
like
yeah.
that.
Yeah.
He'll be on the clock any minute now. I'm still waiting to see who Toronto takes, and then he's on the clock.
Right.
Are we out of picks now because of the trades we did?
Yeah, because we paired the second round pick to move up.
We did?
Yeah, we're out.
We're out.
Yes.
But we had 2 second-round picks. We
No,
gave
we're-
up both of them?
No, we're out because we gave one up. I forget what we gave one, but we gave up the other to move up for the Knicks pick. We're out though. We don't have any second round picks.
Oh, we're out.
Yeah. I'm confirmed. I'm telling you.
No,
that.
51.
Are you sure?
It says we have 51. We still have 51. We had 34. We gave that to Portland. That one's gone.
No, 51 is the one that they packaged with the Knicks pick.
Oh, so
that's
we're
gone.
picking someone
We're
for
picking
them.
for them. Yeah.
Oh, we're
correct.
picking for
yeah,
them.
Yeah, they moved up from 26 to 24 by giving up that second round pick.
Look, the Pacers currently, if this is true, have 49 and 50. You wouldn't use one of those on Bronny James?
Just for the hell of it.
Just for the hell of it?
Has Bronny ever been to Portland?
To Portland? Probably not. The Pacers have 3 second-round picks. Come on. You're going to do better than picking him and holding them hostage? Come on. Why not? I can't make a case to not do it. How about that? I can't make a case to not do that.
Right. I mean, I don't know. What if Bronny then just refuses to play for you?
He's never going to play for you. You're just doing it to make the Lakers give you something because it's going to be better than whatever your second round pick is. That's the reality
Lakers
of
could
it.
go, we don't want to give you anything.
Sure they don't.
I'm just saying.
Sure you
Just saying.
don't. Oh, you don't? Great. He'll play for us.
Right.
Till Dad calls on behalf of the Lakers.
Dad calls.
Hi, it's LeBron James on line 3. I'd like to speak to Rick Carlisle, please. I thought this was interesting, too. BetOnline put out after the first round of the draft last night, NBA Rookie of the Year odds. You'd think that the top pick in the draft might have really good odds for that. He doesn't. He's the 4th choice on the board.
Okay.
You know you've made a mistake if the first pick is not the odds-on favorite, unless the second pick is considered to be as good or the third pick. But the actual top odds first to win Rookie of the Year is the dude the Spurs picked at number 4, the point guard out of UConn.
All right.
Sarr is number 2, 5-1. Castle got 4-1. Zach Edey, 13-2. Ain't happening. And the dude who the Hawks picked, 7-1. 4th best odds to win Rookie of the Year, and he was the number 1 pick. Wembanyama was 1-800 to be the Rookie of the Year when he was selected last year.
I forget who it was. It was a player that I guess played against him, the first overall pick, and was like, that dude ain't a number 1 overall pick player. LOL.
No. LOL. My favorite here. Bronny James is on this list. 200-1 if you want him for Rookie of the Year.
Happening.
That ain't happening. I agree. They've got Bronny James over under draft position, 55.5.
Of course,
because the Lakers pick at 55.
Yeah, of course.
Let's see. What else is going on? Jamal Murray apparently is in line to get a 4-year max deal to stay with Denver. Not a surprise. Very good player.
Yep.
KCP, our old friend, opting out of a contract, available.
Yeah.
Not for us, because we're just not looking for people like that.
We're not trying to win.
We're selling.
We're not trying to win.
We're not trying to win.
Which is fine.
I'm trying to win. Don't tell me I'm not trying to win. I'm always trying to win. I like the play-in tournament. I invented it. I invented that. I invented women's sports. I invented e-gaming. I
never said that
I
either.
invented everything. I invented the
Who's
internet.
selling the tickets?
Huh?
Who's selling the tickets?
Oh.
No.
You want me to do Zachary? Because you like that one? You liked that one.
I think that bit's money.
What?
Zachary, sell the tickets.
Sell the tickets to someone, Zachary.
I think that's a funny one. It's a funny development that you think Zach sells the tickets.
I think Zach does everything over there.
Yeah, okay.
That's what I think.
All right.
Let's see. The other thing happening, Jimmy Butler apparently is not going to say he's got 1 year left. Pat Riley gave him a little bit of the business at the end of season press conference.
Right.
Then Udonis Haslem went on ESPN, and of course he'd know. He might as well be in their front office, said Jimmy's not going anywhere. Now, I think that's up for debate. I think if they can, quote unquote, improve their roster by moving on from him and bringing in someone else, Paul George, whatever they think, then I think they would do it because I think Riley's a mercenary and he would.
Right.
But they're not stupid and they're not going to let him go just to let him go because they don't like the hairdos he does on media day.
Right.
So, but he apparently now is not going to sign an extension. The report is he's refusing to sign an extension now. He wants to play it out until he gets to free agency, which is typically the right thing to do. And maybe that's why Riley was on him. Maybe they went to him early and said, we want to lock you up. And he said no. And maybe that's why they're giving him the business a little bit. Like, oh, well, if you don't want to be here long term, maybe we move you. Good luck with Memphis. Maybe. Got to play hardball.
We're also, didn't you see the report?
Riley's been playing hardball since he was 6.
Did you see the report yesterday, too, that the Sixers were eyeing him?
The Sixers want him back?
Yeah.
I believe it. And I wonder how he feels about them now.
I bet you he probably feels better about them now than he did before.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Embiid's serious.
Yeah.
Like full on serious. Yeah. And the way what he played through, I think, underrated storyline. Like that dude probably shouldn't have been playing.
Yeah, right.
Like probably shouldn't have been playing, but he gutted it out. He played. Maxi's a killer.
Right.
Learned that one in the playoffs, too. He had a couple of crazy games in the playoffs, so he's a killer. He could be the right third. Tobias Harris's contract's up, right? So they have a big hole. They can move. They're going to get somebody. Morey moves and shakes. I bet you they can get somebody. The question, but with Riley, the whole deal is he wants you to take Tyler Hero and nobody.
Right.
He doesn't want to give you anybody.
Right.
And they just signed Adebayo to a big deal, so he's the only, in my opinion, outside of Jimmy Butler, literal piece that somebody would go, okay, I would trade for him. So this always comes back to, like, what would the Sixers give back to Miami for him, though? What would Riley want? Because he'd ask for Maxey. They're not giving him up. So what would it be?
I don't know what the pick situation is for the Sixers. Would be the only thing I could think of.
But that would be just a sign of reset. I don't think Riley's in that business. They just re-signed out of Bayou. They got Butler in hand. They're going to get rid of him if they can get better. But if they can't get better, they're going to run it back with him and assume that they'll be better and they're competitive, and they always are.
Does he want Brad?
Not anymore. If he did have an inkling of liking Brad, he doesn't like him anymore.
Who wants Brad?
Zachary, call Pat Riley and vouch for Brad. Tell him he's great.
Vouch for what?
Yeah. And Pat's like, I watched. I watch every game. I know and I know.
Whatever the opposite of killer instinct is, that's Brad.
Yeah. I mean, I'll hear how Butler wanted to go back to that.
Right.
I mean, Embiid and Maxey have turned the corner of we want to win.
Right. Exactly.
That's all he wants. He wants to be where we want to win. Mm-hmm. And I think Miami wants to win. Their team just might not be good enough right now. But they play. That's why I like them. They play in a way that's like attractive. Like they want to win. It's obvious. Like they're not going through the motions down there.
Right.
Okay. I haven't seen a pick go off the board yet, so they must be slow rolling the start of the second round. I thought it was supposed to start at 4:00.
Pick is in, is what my update says.
Pick is in?
Yeah.
But for the first pick of the second round?
Yeah.
It started 20 minutes ago.
Yeah.
Well, Bronny?
Slow roll.
They're slow rolling it out?
Yeah, you know how this works.
Yeah. Got to do a lot of setup.
It starts at 4.
They have to do recap of the first round.
4:15 is when they go on the clock.
Go on the clock. They did the whole recap.
Yeah, the NBA literally just tweeted 3 minutes ago that they were live on ESPN. So yeah, it only just started. They are taking Jonathan Magbo.
Okay, not Bronny James.
Correct.
Okay, so that puts Utah on the clock, which is, I love this is the NBA now. A pick that came from Washington via Detroit and Brooklyn.
Utah is selecting.
Traded hands 4 times.
Utah is selecting Kyle Filipowski.
Oh, the Duke guy.
Yeah.
That's the dude who kept falling down and tripping people. Remember him?
God.
That's him.
What a Utah pick.
Remember that?
Yeah.
White guy who trips people. Sounds about right.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Perfect for Utah.
Cheater.
Perfect for Utah.
Yeah, perfect. They're going to love him. Oh, he trips people? Great.
Does he like soda?
Yeah. Is he going to trip Giannis? Hopefully he will.